For millennia, humanity has waged war on a single battlefield, Earth. Our armies have clashed on land, our navies have fought on the seas, and our air forces have dueled in the skies. But a new frontier of warfare is emerging: space. This is no longer the stuff of science fiction, it is the reality we face. As nations increasingly rely on space-based assets for communication, navigation, and intelligence, the possibility of conflict extending into orbit becomes ever more real. Imagine a future where satellites are disabled in a blinding flash. Imagine warships rendered blind and deaf, their communications cut off. Imagine global positioning systems failing, sending economies into a tailspin. This is the potential face of space warfare, a new era of conflict with far-reaching consequences for us all. The stakes are incredibly high. Space, once a sanctuary for scientific exploration and discovery, could become a battleground. The very technologies that connect us and drive our modern world could become weapons of war. This is a future we must strive to avoid, but one we must also be prepared to face. The seeds of space warfare were sown during the Cold War. The launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957 by the Soviet Union sparked a space race with the United States. Both superpowers poured resources into developing more sophisticated rockets, satellites, and ultimately, human spaceflight. This competition was about more than national pride. It was about military advantage. Satellites quickly became vital tools for espionage, allowing each side to peer down on the other from orbit. The development of intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs, introduced the terrifying possibility of nuclear annihilation delivered from space. To counter this threat, both the US and the Soviet Union began exploring anti-satellite weapons, or ASATs, designed to destroy enemy satellites in orbit. The space race reached its peak with President Ronald Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, in the 1980s. Dubbed Star Wars by the media, SDI envisioned a space-based system of lasers and particle beams capable of shooting down incoming Soviet missiles. While SDI was ultimately deemed technologically infeasible and was never fully realized, it underscored the growing importance of space as a potential theater of operations. Space warfare, unlike its terrestrial counterpart, encompasses a unique set of technologies and tactics. These can be broadly categorized into two types: kinetic and non-kinetic. Kinetic methods involve the use of physical force to disable or destroy a target. ASATs, for instance, can be launched from Earth or from aircraft to intercept and destroy satellites in orbit. Co-orbital interceptors, on the other hand, are satellites themselves, equipped with weapon systems that can be maneuvered to target other satellites in close proximity. Non-kinetic methods, while less overtly destructive, can be equally effective in crippling an adversary's space capabilities. Cyber attacks, for instance, can be used to disrupt satellite communications, jam GPS signals, or even seize control of a satellite entirely. Electronic warfare utilizes a range of technologies to jam, deceive, or disable enemy sensors and communication systems in space. These technologies are constantly evolving, driven by advances in fields like directed energy weapons, hypersonic missiles, and artificial intelligence. As these technologies mature, the potential for conflict in space becomes increasingly real, and the consequences increasingly severe. Section 4, Nations at the Starting Line, the key players in the space race. Today, the United States, China, Russia, and India stand out as the key players in the emerging landscape of space warfare. The United States, with its long history of space exploration and military dominance, possesses the most mature space program. It relies heavily on a network of satellites for intelligence gathering, communication, and navigation, making it particularly vulnerable to attacks in space. In response, the U.S. has been developing a space force to protect its interests in orbit. China has rapidly emerged as a major space power. It has demonstrated its ASAT capabilities and is actively developing a range of counterspace technologies. China sees space as a critical domain for achieving its strategic objectives and challenging U.S. dominance. Russia, heir to the Soviet Union's space legacy, retains significant capabilities in space. It has conducted ASAT tests and is developing new space-based weapon systems. Russia views space as a vital arena for projecting power and countering Western influence. India, a rising power with growing space ambitions, is also investing in counter-space technologies. It has successfully tested an ASAT and is focused on securing its space assets and deterring potential adversaries. Shots across the bow demonstrations of space power. The world has already witnessed troubling demonstrations of space power. In 2007, China conducted an ASAT test, destroying one of its own weather satellites. The test created a massive debris field in low Earth orbit, endangering other satellites and highlighting the potential for space warfare to generate hazardous space debris. In 2019, India conducted its own ASAT test, successfully destroying a low Earth orbit satellite. The test, dubbed Mission Shakti, demonstrated India's growing counter-space capabilities and its determination to defend its interests in space. These tests underscore the reality of space warfare and the potential for escalation. They also highlight the urgent need for international dialogue and cooperation to establish norms of behavior in space and prevent an arms race that could have catastrophic consequences. The final frontier at risk: the perils and uncertainties of space warfare. The militarization of space poses significant risks to humanity's future. The most immediate danger is the proliferation of space debris. Every ASAT test or space collision creates a cloud of high-velocity fragments that can cripple or destroy other satellites. This debris can remain in orbit for decades, posing a constant threat to spacecraft and astronauts. The Kessler Syndrome, a hypothetical scenario in which the density of space debris becomes so high that it triggers a cascade of collisions, could render entire orbits unusable, crippling global communications and navigation systems. This would have devastating consequences for economies, societies, and international security. Beyond the physical dangers, the militarization of space also carries significant strategic risks. The development of space weapons could lower the threshold for conflict, making it more likely that crises on Earth will escalate into space. This could lead to a dangerous arms race in space, diverting resources from pressing global challenges, and increasing the risk of miscalculation and unintended escalation. The future of space warfare remains uncertain. The choices made by nations in the coming years will determine whether space becomes a new domain for cooperation or a dangerous battleground. The stakes are high, and the time for responsible action is now. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of warfare, technology, and space. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.